Hi guys, I'm Tushar, the founder of Hubble, and our mission in life is to help you love where you work. Who am I? Well, I'm just like you guys. I'm overworked and underpaid. I spend over 80 hours a week in the office, and I'm a jack of all trades. I have to be the founder, the CEO, the CMO, COO, chief team maker, HR, accountant, office manager, which means that I'm juggling 8 to 10 different balls at any given one point in time. And I'm always concerned about how my business is growing and how that affects my quality of life, but also my employees' quality of life. And this is particularly pertinent because we started off with Hubble with just 2 people in the team in 2014, and we've now grown to 20 people in 2 years. And for us, that's really important because we've actually gone from office to office to office. And we've had to save money. We've had to think about how do we make sure that the team is together, how do we build a culture, how do we hire one new person every single month and make sure that they feel at home and they're loving where they work. And so one thing that we've thought about a lot is actually your office space and how that actually determines your success. I'm the founder of Hubble, but for those of you who don't know, we're a website that actually is an Airbnb for office space. So we actually aggregate all of the flexible offices around central London, and we help small businesses, medium-sized businesses and freelancers find them online. That's important because actually before we arrived, if you're a small, medium-sized business, you have to commit to long-term leases, 10-year commitments and huge upfront costs. Now, because we exist, you can actually pay as you go and access loads of flexible space at your fingertips. We not only deal with startups, but we deal with creative agencies, growing startups, bigger businesses, and office providers. We've also helped the likes of Jaguar, startups like Songkick, and even new banking monsters like Monzo. So, why are we so obsessed with office space? Well, that's mainly because we're in such amazing times that actually the entire way that businesses are run is completely being changed. Firstly, 83% of SME businesses that we've surveyed before have counted office space as their second biggest cost after paying staff. And that makes sense because actually for every single person that you're hiring, you're incurring costs for desk space, for their facilities, for the amenities that surround them. Not only that, but actually people are having to commit to a 10-year term. So when you first start out as a business or a founder, how do you know how long your business is going to last for, how big you'll be, how much money you'll make, and how many people you'll have? And also, how do you know whether you'll even need the physical space that you're working in at the moment, especially as technology changes rapidly as it's been doing so far? The third aspect is that actually office space is really, really expensive. And the average spend for office space for small, medium-sized businesses is £45,000 a year. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to help businesses overcome these huge barriers to their success, which is to do with cost, which is to do with commitment, which is to do with inflexibility, which leads to actually being detrimental to your business itself. So what I'm going to do is share with you some hacks that we've used as we've grown from 2 to 20 people in the last 2 years to actually cut down our office costs, but also make sure that we're happy in the places that we work. The number one tip I've got for you is to take flexible contracts and not take long-term leases. There's a lot of office spaces out there which are professional providers, such as people you may have heard of, WeWork and Regis, but also plenty of businesses out there who have an extra spare 5 to 10 desks sitting in their office that they're renting out on a monthly basis, kind of like a gym membership. And what happens there is you don't have to think about buying furniture, you don't have to think about getting in touch with Virgin Media and setting up your infrastructure. And everything is plug and play as soon as you arrive. The other benefit of flexible office space is you can actually change your office as your costs go up and down. So if suddenly you're John Lewis and you're making the John Lewis Christmas advert, you can scale up your agency team, your branding team, your sales team for 3 to 4 months before the Christmas period, take on office space, just pay for that, and then scale all the way back down. Typically, this wasn't possible before technology arrived, because you have to actually have provision for the space before you get started on that journey. The second thing is that we operate businesses on a global and also local scale. which means that actually having a physical presence all around the world is possible virtually, but people prefer to have a physical presence because we love to do business in person. And actually, having flexible office space means that you can move whenever you want, but you can also be in many locations at the same time. So you can be in central London, in Birmingham, in Manchester, on the peripheries where you commute from, but also in other cities all across the world. And it's as easy as gym membership. It's all inclusive, it's pay as you go, and there's no upfront cost. The other way that you can save money is share your office. We're at the advent of the sharing economy at the moment, where people are sharing homes on Airbnb, people are sharing cars on things like Lyft and Uber. And actually people are realizing that there's no sense in spending lots of money buying things up front and then not actually utilizing that to its full effect. That actually you can share that with other people. You can actually charge people for access to that. And actually you can make quite a bit of money to offset your own costs. But actually also a lot of overspill benefits that you get from that, where you get to meet a whole new community of people, inject a fresh perspective into your business, and really energize your business environment as well. And we have companies of all sorts of types doing this. We have big financial banks like Barclays, and NatWest. We have small design agencies who are sharing their space with smaller technology startups. We have fintech companies sharing a space with finance companies. And one of the best things about this is actually you get to offset your own costs, and a lot of people that we know are actually paying next to no rent for their own space themselves, because who they're sharing it with is completely offsetting the entire rent for their own building. Another practical solution is actually the hub and spoke model. The hub and spoke model is essentially where you have your core team who you need to be in an office in a central location where your clients and investors can get to extremely easily. This is normally a sales function or a marketing or a client-facing function, and that actually you have all the spokes around it which revolve around that, which are not so location sensitive. So we have many businesses who have a very smart office in the middle of Soho, but actually their development team will be working somewhere in Croydon, their back office team will be working somewhere in Richmond, or even actually split all over the world. This means that you can actually pay for the premium space, but only take a little bit of it in the beginning, and actually you can get the cheaper space for all of your staff that are not so location sensitive and not so customer facing. The other aspect that you can do is that you can actually just have one office. If you have a staff of 100 people, we've got companies where they're actually only in an office for 20 people, and 80 people are given co-working memberships. So essentially this is an all-access pass to lots of different office spaces all across the world that they can come in, use the Wi-Fi, use the facilities, and work from. And that works really, really well because it gives them the flexibility to move around, but you also save costs in the long run too. The other interesting aspect, and this is another thing which technology has allowed us to do, is actually use non-traditional offices. So if you think about what your office space is at the moment, it's actually you, yourself, your laptop, your mobile devices, some notepads, and perhaps some stationery. And what that means is that the traditional infrastructure that was needed in office buildings, that was built into when the buildings were first developed, is no longer needed. And actually, most of the basic infrastructure exists in most physical buildings. And because they're not actually offices, because they're actually just physical space that you can utilize for different things, it means that they're a lot cheaper, that they're varied all about in town, and also they have a lot of character. If there's a particular sort of brand or sort of uniqueness that you're trying to bring to your company, a really good way is actually having a bit of a different office space that you can invite your clients and investors to, and that can really give them a real sense of your own personality of your business, rather than being in an office just like everyone else. What we've seen on the platform so far has varied from shipping containers to garden sheds, people using their garages, and of course, you have the stories of people like Google and Steve Jobs from Apple all starting off in their garages. Empty restaurants during the day, you could go there, you could probably have a subsidized meal, and they probably also have Wi-Fi. Church halls, if you're feeling fancy, even rooftop bars, you can drink a martini all day long and get your work done if you really want to. We've even had MPs living on houseboats and actually renting out their houseboats as workspace during the day. It's a very Dutch thing to do, but actually it's coming into London very, very slowly. Another way is not pay for office space at all. You can barter your way onto a desk. And what's really, really interesting is that we've all got skill sets within our own companies that we actually can bring value to. If you're a service provider, so say if you're a designer, and actually a lot of the time you're trying to win business from larger clients, you can actually offer your design services for free in exchange to having a really smart professional workspace to invite your clients into. And what that means is that not only are the people with the spare space gaining tremendous value from it, and even though it may not be monetary, they're actually helping their business. You are getting access to an amazing space, building your portfolio, and having the brand and identity that you want for your space without paying a single penny. What's even more interesting is that much larger businesses are really, really interested in how startups, new businesses are operating, their new frames of mind, and how to market to a younger demographic. And they're actually willing to not only give you free space, but actually invest in your company, give you access, give you advice, and incubate your company to help that company grow. What's in it for them? Well, they get access to fresh ideas, they get access to other industries, people that they would have never met in business or even personally. And sometimes they even get a small equity stake in your business, which means that if you succeed, they also succeed as well. This actually is a picture from one of my favorite festivals, which is Burning Man in the US, and actually that whole festival works off of a barter economy. It works extremely well because what they've realized is that humans have a diverse range of skills and goods that they can make, and actually they can create huge amounts of value from that. Another great way is recycle or upcycle your furniture to create a unique space. And this is really, really important. This is actually one of the spaces that we sat in, and one of the things that these guys were really proud of is that they didn't buy a single piece of furniture. They actually found it in car boot sales. They went around and asked old people in old people's homes, people who were recycling and throwing out old stuff. And with a bit of imagination, they managed to convert it into what I think is a pretty cool living room vibe with a full-on bar and also a pinball table in the background. If you look at some other pictures of this space, they even had a bathtub, they had a big swan, and actually anything that they could find. And all it really took was an empty building, some imagination, and a bit of hustle to go and find some quirky bits of furniture. And not only is this good for you saving money, it's also good for the environment as well. Another really nice way of doing this is actually thinking about how people are working. So we used to dedicate huge amounts of floor space onto giving each individual person a big desk and a big workspace. And that amounts to around 50 square feet to 100 square feet. And if you look at how people are working, people are increasingly mobile. They're using mobile devices, they're going to more and more meetings, they're doing more and more collaborative working. And most of the work that can happen at a desk, they're actually doing in another environment. So other companies, people like The Telegraph, The Guardian, large banks like Lloyd's, they've actually completely reduced the amount of fixed desks that they give to their staff. And they've actually created much more open communal areas where they can socialize, they can grab a beanbag or a chair, and all sit in a cafe. And so this actually is a mock-up of what I believe is one of the coolest offices in London called Second Home, where they've really epitomized that. They've actually created an entire indoor garden facility inside the office. And they could have created more and more private space and more desk space. They decided not to do that because they just realized that people were working in a completely different way. And it's not just pandering to how people are working. You're actually driving huge cost efficiencies and savings as a result because you're getting many more people in a much smaller amount of space. But actually the overspill benefits is that they're much happier as well. So whilst it's amazing to save money on office space and actually you can dedicate that money to other things that your business could be doing, we're firm believers that it's important to love where you work. And it's actually really, really important to think about your office space, its culture, the location, what feelings that it drives within your staff, because that all impacts actually the success of your business. Like I said, we've grown from 2 people to 20 people in 2 years. And we've done some things wrong, we've done some things right. But I fundamentally believe that one of the things that we got right all of the time was that we created a work environment for them to be happy, for them to be productive, for them to stick around, and actually tell other people about us. They're really, really proud to bring clients and investors into our office. they actually start building a brand and an identity around who we are, and actually that's really, really shaped by their surroundings. So I wouldn't overlook office space as a necessary evil or something which you're trying to get rid of as much as possible, but something to embrace, something which has tangible ROI associated with it as well. And finally, if you'd like to check out some flexible working, we're actually at stand 930 around the corner. We've got free workspace, we've got Wi-Fi, free coffee, chargers, because I know a lot of you guys are near the end of your day right now, and actually massages to help you calm down. So please come and see us at booth 930. I'll be there with a lot of my colleagues. We can answer any questions you have. And thank you and good afternoon.